Good afternoon, LinkedIn friends, HubSpot Nation. Welcome to another episode of Let's Build Communication with Clemen. Happy Tuesday, Earth Day, April 22nd, 2025. Clemen, how you doing?
Doing really good. Yesterday was, Easter holiday, so a shorter week is always good. And next week, I'm not sure how it's in the US, but in Europe, more holidays are coming, so not much to complain.
Yeah, that's a good way of looking at it. Well, continuing on our journey, try and help people communicate better, especially on the sales side, using all of this wealth of technology and AI, and just there's no shortage of tools that we can and should be using when it comes to helping us with communication. Today, we're going to be unboxing the Sales Workspace, which each of us have done before in our own regard. And obviously, I've been sharing updates about it a lot on the update show, but I haven't unboxed it. It's been a while since I've gone in because in my own portal, I don't have Pro, so I don't get to play with it. But I've got it in the Let's Build Media portal. And just curious, before we jump back in, Clement, when you went in the first time, was that when it was called Sales Workspace or when it was called Prospecting Workspace?
I think it was back in the prospecting workspace, yeah. And then I
Okay.
did a bit of clicking around when it was Sales Workspace, but now, yeah, it's been a while, so it feels like something fresh we should definitely
So
dig
do you
into.
remember your first gut reaction when you went in and checked it out?
I felt it's going in the right direction. It still felt a lot of clicking, unnecessary clicking in a way. But I liked, the kind of trying to streamline the workflow of a salesperson, helping you to prioritize. Where I see a good, use of AI and everything is, the guided actions. And back when it was prospecting workspace, we were building our 2.0 version of Celestial, which was kind of trying to do something pretty similar. So we are automatically creating tasks for salespeople. As soon as you send a follow-up email, we mark the task as complete and then create a new follow-up task, kind of calculating for you what should be the next action, and then help you write that follow-up email considering your idea. So yeah, I always felt it's going in the right direction. I still believe so. And this is, again, as said many times, how CRM should help salespeople guide and streamline the process. You should, as a sales rep, you shouldn't need to keep things in your head. There are systems for that. So you can think of how to communicate, how to better communicate. And the system of record should be just there, and the system of record should help you streamline what to do next. So instead of doing a lot of context switching and thinking what to do next, the next action should be obvious, kind of
Yes.
suggested by the system. So yeah, I really see a great value of Sales Workspace in general.
Key phrase there, out of context. I'm sure we'll be talking about that a lot as we dig in here. Now, this is in the Let's Build Media demo portal, so not a ton of selling happening through this portal, but we've got some data, and we'll see what we can do. But like you mentioned, it's been baby steps, and it's been fun to watch these baby steps kind of grow over since this was first introduced in September of 23 as the prospecting workspace at the same time as leads. So we have come a long way since then.
Yeah,
for sure. And what they're doing with all these workspaces is just, again, the context, bring it into one space and one screen, as much as possible with less clicking, less screen context switching, like having to go into contact records and deal records and pipeline views and all this stuff. And you can see that in my opinion, the team has done a great job of starting to like design these workspaces, not unlike we're used to in browser-based, windows, and just bring it all together. I can't imagine the challenge that they have of trying to bring so much context into what's one spot. But we'll see if we look here. Let's see, we've got some saved views here. Right, so we've got a deal screen. Again, inline editing. So we can pretend sales team that this is a spreadsheet, if we want to. Let's say actually we're gonna sweeten the deal a little bit and make it 99 cents instead of $0. But
And
literally that's
update.
how manageable, like if we could just like that manageability, to be able to click in, edit things, see it. Looks like the autosave functionality isn't quite over to this space yet. But that's kind of the whole goal across, the portals, to kind of put this tool in the hands of your frontline sales team and let them do their job, right? And that helps obviously when you've got a lot of the AI tooling that's showing up. That helps make sure their job isn't data entry.
Exactly.
Right?
The sales admin work should be now gone. And interface that is easy to manage the data behind it is the way to go.
Yeah.
And how you can help every salesperson in the team bring in the data, which should, I think, now be the goal of every sales leader, bring in data to HubSpot, because then AI will work, all the automation will work, your forecasting will work, everything will work if you have data in one place.
Yeah. I mean, look at this. If you're used to spreadsheets and you've been clinging onto them for dear life, there's so much gotten so close to mimicking how people work on spreadsheets.
It feels like a spreadsheet, yeah.
Yeah. Now, but what this means is that for most people, and this is where like you start to work with cool tools like this, and you can get the team excited about it, but then you start uncovering where the gaps are, why CRM hasn't been adopted, including like, oh, it'd be cool to see a schedule here, but you haven't connected your calendar yet, Clement. So you're not going to be able to see a calendar. I'm wondering if I can here. Let's just, do you run into that a lot? I'm going to hide this
The
here.
portals,
Like, just like how often do you like the situations where clearly there's a disconnect or there's data problems or whatever, the CRM is not being used, and you run into the simple gaps like calendar's not connected and email's not connected?
Yeah. And funny enough, we had even a challenge where the email is connected and the emails are syncing, but then some reps, especially the ones on the go who are not in front of the computer for a whole day, you send emails from your phone, and because of how emails are logged, you don't add a BCC address, and even those emails then are not synced to HubSpot. So at some point, we even built our own connector to Gmail and Outlook, so we can help just directly connect HubSpot to the inbox. Honestly, I'm not sure why that's not a natively built solution for HubSpot, but you always need to have the BCC. But what we've been basically doing is just even if you forget, or if the connection is broken, or the plugin you're not logged in, which happens you just directly connect inbox, and then the system understands what goes out, what comes in, just automatically assigns stuff to the right contact, the right company. So yeah, unfortunately, this is still the case. Emails and calendars are not logged, and then it's making hard to ensure the data is there. And then you might say, hey, I'm not seeing the AI helping me stay on top of everything, but the root cause of it is you don't have the data available there, so there is no way a system can read it and take it into the context.
Yeah, and luckily it is so easy to click a couple buttons and
you already have it.
Have everything connected. And even me, like I've told myself, and I get it, it's hard, but I've discovered but not built the habit, right? Where you can schedule. This is where like shifting from the one contextual place, which is usually your email inbox as a salesperson, and driving everything from there. Like you can make it so it's very similar in terms of the tasks you're doing it from here now. Like I can book time just like I can in the Gmail or Google Calendar right from here. And that's where I think as an admin or as any, like, let's say sales ops trying to help people understand, like if you put the effort into the hand holding, like right there where I was before, if I were to see that, I'm actually assuming that, especially traditional sales teams, if nobody's forced them to yet, they probably have not done that, connect in the calendar. So we will be on a call and you build this into the calls, right? Where it's like, okay, guys, we're going to connect our calendars now, knowing that it takes 5 minutes max, right? And we'll wait. Everybody's got to confirm that they've now connected their calendar, and we can even go as admin and like check, right? But taking that time, like this is where the admin's role, starts to shift a little bit. And you focus on plugging all these gaps so that the AI, like you mentioned, can do its job. Because behind the scenes here, and I'm going to see if I've got, so I've got schedule, got insights, got feed over here. And so I had one guided action that was connect my calendar. I've got that done. So I'm all caught up today, Clement. I guess
we can just grab a coffee.
But behind the scenes, HubSpot is investing a lot in helping so that the salesperson doesn't have to, do all this stuff. So today there's a great hug. George Davis from Frame AI team was talking about what the acquisition meant, for HubSpot. And I think the key things are, I love the way they think about this, like the batteries included mindset around AI, like not having to think about it, much, making sure it's built in across the product without wondering if it's turned on or if it's looking at the right things. The specific business context and enabling proactive features, right? So much of like when like Frame AI as an unstructured data, processing, platform, probably butchering the way that I should be, promoting that. But its ability to look at emails, unstructured data, and then pull it into the CRM and surface insights as if it were structured data, right? And that's the kind of thing that so what's already happening, the improved transcript accuracy, right? We're seeing HubSpot calling, and the HubSpot meetings tool is now a recording tool. Sourcing of AI insights all over the place. I think we noticed that last week. when we were looking at prospecting, the prospecting agent giving us sources of the research it was doing. And basically this unified context layer. Because I think that's where we get to that point where we can come in as a user and just trust, right?
Yeah.
Which is probably 3 to 6 months away, maybe. That's why admins, your job, build trust. Like build trust in the system at all
Yeah.
costs, because there is so much power here. But if you do not, any chink in the armor, like any data point that doesn't look right, doesn't feel right, remember, I'm the salesperson with the context in my head. If it doesn't match exactly and you can't explain why, then I'm not using the system anymore. Right? That doesn't mean my context is always correct. Right?
But
And that's where sales management comes into play, and the team works together. Like that's where it's a team effort to understand, no, this is what was said on the call. And or you would just avoid those situations by having call recordings and call transcripts in the system. Right? Because humans' memories aren't the best, sometimes, right?
and I see, in a way, every AI tool for now needs to match your mind. Even as I said, no, your thoughts might, or your assumptions might not be correct, but you expect system to confirm and add something more to that, which means is if I will doubt the system works as it should, even if it maybe does a better job, or just understands the content that I'm providing, I will still doubt the system and then make a conclusion the system is not working. We had an interesting case with one of the users where the emails we've been generating kept using enhancing as the word in the email, no matter how strictly I said the system don't use the word enhance. And then I tried to understand why is that happening, and then I looked into the value proposition and marketing materials provided to the system, and word enhance was used 16 times there. Of course the system was using it. I mean, yes, but it's not the system that is not steerable and not following the instructions. Is the input data where
Yeah.
you just feed so many times the same word that even if I said once in the system don't use that word, how can system be convinced that is not the right word if it's used all over the place? And then here I see a big opportunity for RevOps, for admins to understand that, in a way, complexity and importance of providing the right context, cleaning it up, and addressing those kind of concerns where the user sales rep would say, hey, I have doubts, or where this data is coming from, you can explain, and the system will need to explain as well. And then you start trusting the system, as you said.
Yeah. It's funny that like we get on there's so many cases like that we can always point back to like human behavior as well, human understanding. Like that happens like in human context as well, when you wonder why people are using words or not using words. Probably more so like not using messaging. Like when you've worked so hard to build the messaging as a marketer, and then you don't understand why a sales team doesn't use it, why it's never coming up in conversation. And then you're like, well, it's in this digital asset management platform over here that you have login credentials to, and we did training on it 6 months ago. Like, why don't you ever use this? It's like, hello, it's not in front of them. Meanwhile, they've got old documents or whatever that they are banking on that has that language, has the word enhancing in it, 16 times.
Yeah.
And like, I must be doing the right thing. So that kind of visibility, like, is such a huge part of all this, like really making everything visible, which is going to be, that's why you need to target trust, right? Creating trust milestones. is a great way to think about it. And that's what, whenever I get frustrated with AI and like the time-based project timelines, where I know that working with AI should make stuff go faster, but then it gives me like human-based projects. And what was interesting is whenever I tried to work through that, it would change it to trust-based milestones, like especially when it's related to AI adoption, right?
Mhm.
But it makes sense from a HubSpot adoption standpoint, from all these other standpoints where onboarding in a 90-day window, like what happens in 90 days that's like magical and like, okay, we're going to be done with onboarding, right? No, it's like, are people using the system yet? Like, do
Yeah.
systems trust it? That could take 60 days. It could take 120 days, but that's the
And
milestone.
and then maybe one user will be fully onboarded and using it daily, and after 30 days, someone needs 4 months of hand holding and then reminding them. And after 4 months, you might need to ask one to connect the calendar.
Yeah.
You know.
There you go. So I think for the most part, this is fairly obvious in terms of like we're at a point, like you mentioned, and I had the same feelings when we saw prospecting. It's like, okay, this is a way to promote leads and show a calendar, and but we can't see deals, we can't see like dashboards or anything else. Now, if you come up with conceptually a sales, like what a salesperson would need, like I think we're at a point where pretty much everything's in here. So we see target accounts, leads, like these are tools that were not being used because they were hard to get to, right? They weren't super evident. And unless you had a really guided path for your team using something like Super, for example, like they're just not going to use it, right? We'll just go right to the records and do our
Yeah.
job from there. So again, and expecting the same kind of functionality to where we can create save views with leads now. We already saw deals. Tasks is always an interesting one for me because I've never really seen, uh, this is the kind of thing, like if I'm selling, if you want me to be selling, I'm probably not managing tasks like in a CRM.
I don't see
Um,
tasks, being used
right?
as they should be often. And in my experience, as soon as you have 50 overdue tasks, you just stop using them because it's just outdated. Because obviously you've been managing it your own way, whatever that way is. And then tasks just stay there.
Yes, exactly. So unless which is now, like if you want to use tasks, like, and it can trigger workflows now, you could definitely create some power and value out of having tasks, but it can't just be like a notification, right? Because otherwise, unless you design like the whole process around like doing work from a task queue, like it's hard to see it, be successful
Yeah,
in practice.
I see guided actions will kind of take over the tasks concept,
Right.
where if you have a way to tell the system, HubSpot in that case, how often you want to follow up with someone, when you want to check in. Do you want to follow up the same day after the meeting, or the 3 days after the meeting with notes, with whatever? Then the system can understand what you're doing. In my HubSpot now, I see as guided actions, follow up on meetings. Yes,
Yes.
if I tell the system, yes, I want to follow up ever after every meeting. This is the kind of the guided action. Yes, you had 5 meetings that you haven't followed up. If I don't want to do it, I can tell the system, hey, just don't create that as a task, but rather create a task 5 days after the call if there is no further email communication, and if I don't tell you that it's lost. And that's how I see tasks kind of disappear but go under guided actions, where you tell the system and steer the system how you want to work, and then it listens in a way to your communication, to your meetings, to your email communication, LinkedIn communication. And because of understanding how you want to work, it knows when to remind you, because something that was expected haven't happened yet.
Yeah. Basically, we have a group of like contextual things here, right? That should inform an overall picture of like how you're doing, like the state of things for you as either a rep or as a company or as a team, right? So if we go, all right. I mean, this is kind of new too. This ability to add dashboards that are already built, right? Like, so dashboard and reporting in the sales workspace, right? So literally all the context. And then on the other side of this, we can get to our summaries, which have the guided actions. And the other thing I want to point out is how this all connects to this new experience that is in private beta right now. That is the HubSpot homepage, right? And seeing recommendations of things to do next, right? And have it be centralized, is going to be, that's where we're going. And on the screenshot, if you look in the product updates for HubSpot Home, on the screenshot, there's a Breeze chat up here, like just like you see on Claude and GPT, instead of just this sidebar over here. So between this page and these workspaces, everything else is all just underlying data, underneath that. I think by the end of this year, we're going to be speaking, to our CRMs, and the admin layer, this context layer that is being managed by AI, is what's updating a lot of these things, right? And we're going to hear a story. I can't wait to hear the stories where salespeople like literally spend almost 100% of their time like engaging with other human beings, like on all sides. And that's where we get to this point when I start to talk about things like customer teams, like instead of marketing, sales, service. It's so hard to think about because there's so much stuff that each team has to do in a siloed way just to make sure the processes are going. We've got KPIs. You start to remove all that infrastructure. And now in like a sales, like an account manager can actually be active like across the whole cycle, right? And when you look at some of the most successful salespeople, that's what they do. Like they are the primarily point of contact at all times, right? And it doesn't scale, obviously, or it hasn't until now, I think. But if we can, it's going to be interesting to see these kind of siloed processes like break down. And can teams be ready to say, oh man, like you've got, and this is where instead of paring back headcount, we start to think about how humans can be used, like the value that they can create because they've got all this context like at their fingertips. Right? The kinds of calls we're going to make each day change, the kinds of emails we're sending.
And how, even I see a transition in how sales teams are built, for the past 5 years, let's say. It was kind of, SDRs are qualifying the leads. Marketing is generating contacts, and then SDR is qualifying, and then AEs are closing, and then CS is taking over when deals close one. If nothing else, I see the shift from SDRs being kind of removed, and you have more and more full cycle AEs, where they're the main, as I said, main point of contact from the very first communication you have with a real human being in a company to when you are fully onboarded to the system that someone is selling. You have one contact who is building the relationship. I'm tired of those sales processes where you first need to have a SDR call for 15 minutes who is just asking you questions, and then you're eligible to get to the AE call demo. These days are gone.
Oh man.
Um,
Yeah, you're gonna love
yeah.
value first partner because that's what it's all about. Like, we put ourselves, like, the qualification trap that leads to, like, if you can overcome that, then you can be value first partner. And honestly, it was the hardest one of the traps and like pillars that it was for me to connect like qualification to like partner stuff. But what I realized is when you have an account manager, when you're in that, and we were talking a little bit about this, before the call, how many opportunities do we qualify out because we just don't have time to innovate, and we don't have time to think about, oh, what if I could get in touch with this person, this other partner that we work with, in a very reactive way, so we're never ready for these situations because we're so focused on this clean funnel and this qualification activity. Like, instead of asking, are you worthy? Are you a good fit? Like, for us to spend our time, like, you've found us, you've raised your hand, like, how can we create value, for each other? Because there's already interest, there's already motivation to be engaging with each other. Like, it's never any fun to just say no. And obviously there's a lot of authenticity can be created. And I'm not saying you just decide that everybody's going to be fit. This is not the conversation where you don't pick markets and you don't target, right? But I guarantee a lot of opportunities are lost where, there could be something more if we weren't so regimented to this qualification, structure that we have, right? Because behind the scenes, we all know that customers love one-stop shops, like, when they can get it. But it's something in the industrial space. And again, we're talking about the context of the sales workspace. When you also don't treat your CRM like a traditional sales contact only, database, and you have communications. Now we have these AI tools that will be able to turn communications from all over the portal into insights. We've been hearing about lookalike lists, right? There's so much power in the data you already have in your organization. These subtle mindset switches, which are challenging, but they can go a long way in terms of, setting your team up for success and seeing these tools in the way that they need to be seen, right? Like, if you're not prepared to kind of create some transparency across the team and, focus less on like contact record ownership and all these barriers to visibility, like, those are going to be barriers for AI too. And you're going to run into situations where maybe AI surfaces an insight, and then I go to click on the link as a rep. It's like, oh, you can't see that. It's like, oh, okay.
I hope it doesn't happen. It shouldn't, but I can imagine. Yeah.
And those are the kinds of challenges that if you put those barriers in front of AI, it's not going to be successful. Because then for the next person, it won't surface that insight because it wasn't a positive outcome. On that front, of structure and moving these KPIs related to like email activity and call activity. Like, how does that, are people transitioning at all when they're also at the same time they're asking, like, is a prospecting agent able to create and send emails like on our behalf, or at least create the emails? So now we can create emails a lot easier. Are my KPI numbers related to email sends like doubling now as a sales rep?
I think slowly people are changing their mind, but I'm not sure we're there yet. It's similar to discussion we had, I think, last week around A/B testing of templates and emails. There's a whole mind shift that needs to happen, and then change. We another discussion we had was around open rate and then click rate. If you have a template, yes, it maybe makes sense, but if every email is unique, I mean, what does open rate tell you? Really, if every subject line is unique, every email is unique, there's a completely different type of information you get with open rate. It might only just tell you that you're delivering to the inbox because people are opening, but no, it's a different way of thinking. And yeah, the same goes for the volume of emails. I mean, if KPI would be 10,000 emails, I can easily send them in a day. And there are no technical limitations to do that if this is the only KPI you're following. But I think it should no longer be that. It should be really the quality of the communication.
So what are you
And then
seeing people switch to then to kind of measure quality and take that
I see
transition?
it. Yeah, it goes to more to the conversion between steps in the funnel. Of course, also the funnel discussion is up. I guess how all that changes. But let's say the customer journey remains somewhat linear, or at least we envision it linear, so that customer needs to make steps. I see more and more people are thinking about the conversion through the funnel more than those kind of typical KPIs of open rate and click rate and then email send and connection requests made, because this is how you build the revenue. And I think that should be the goal. So how I had a discussion of the one of the sales consultants asked me, can you help me with one of the accounts? They had 5% conversion rate from MQL to SQL. And we started discussing what we can do to help with that process, with that conversion, not how to help them send more emails because they need to follow up more regularly or more often or more aggressively. It's what system do they need to set up the processes so they make sure they never drop a line. They always send relevant messages when those are due. If there are signals where you can follow up with someone, you should leverage that. And then sending more relevant messages, sending better messages, even if it's less of them, should, I think, be the goal. Because what does it help you to send 100 messages and you get one response? Probably in the same time you could send 5 messages and get 2 responses.
Right.
And you don't lose those 95 clicking the unsubscribe potentially because you just send a random generic message. And of course, AI is here to help you scale those 5 messages to all 100.
Yeah,
So you can
that's the
send them,
thing,
the
right?
real the real messages. So we'll be soon, I think, everyone should be able to send 100 relevant messages, not 5, as you can do now manually. And then all those systems to help you personalize messages at scale come into place, connecting to HubSpot or natively within HubSpot, like prospecting agent. But I think every sales team should be thinking in that direction. So how to better communicate, not how to communicate more. We're all, all of our inboxes are full with everything. So I don't think it's that much of a volume game, which used to be, but it's the quality of communication and what you communicate to each and every one is what can stand out in the communication.
It matters more than ever before, and that's sort of like, I love that case you make, like, because this is all over the HubSpot platform too. If you can get your smart subject matter experts that are great at relationship building, that have been great at selling, they're great at just being humans with other humans. If you can like get agreement to take the time to get those 5 emails right, like those, to get this small sample size, whether it's emails, could be social posts, could be association labels, right? All of these things where let's get it right, like perfect, right? And then know that AI is going to be what helps you scale it, right?
Yeah.
And that's where, when you can engage the sales team, the subject matter experts in that process, that's when you get to the trust, right?
Yeah.
So there is a path, to seeing. It's going to be so interesting how this adoption curve is gonna shift, but it's gonna do it in a way that nobody ever could have imagined, in terms of, like, I bet usage goes up as people are allowed to just verbally speak, to their CRMs. And as soon as you cross that barrier the first time, like, the amount of, I think, the usual skepticism and, questioning and lack of trust that we see pop up all over the place will melt away very quickly, just because the experience is going to be, like, literally, I get excited about a future where I can just spend all day doing these calls because there's AI active, and we get off. Like, how easy was it for me to turn a transcript from the hug today, like, into a post, into pieces of content for other people, right? The stories of people are pumping out great proposals in a matter of minutes now, right? Just think about where you guys are using your time, and if you don't have those processed, like, that's allowing those people to then spend the hour it would have taken to build the proposal doing more, more engaging outreach, right? More like higher quality touches, being active in the community, being active on social, creating content, right? So if you're wondering about what you might do if proposals only take 5 minutes and AI is doing all the emailing for you, like, send me a message. I can help you understand other things you can be doing to build trust and build relationships. Like the best of the best already do. Like, they figured this out a long time ago, and it should be available to more and more people now, right? So this is fun, man. There's so much to dig into. Again, it's not always going to be HubSpot related, but it's fun to see how far they've come with this workspace. So appreciate you unboxing it with me today, man.
Always fun. Always great talking to you, Chris.
Yeah. And until next time, folks, have an awesome week.
Have a good one.